Start with the minutes. Make a motion, please.
I make a
I
motion that
move
the
we
minutes,
accept the minutes.
second,
Discussion? I'm sorry, is something,
We got a
Okay.
chirping bird.
all right, discussion? I have a couple things. I think on page 2, we were going to get, I think it was resolved. There was additional information we were requesting from that individual regarding continuing education equivalency. And also on page 3, I'm just bringing up to your attention what happened to this. Commissioner Gray also made a motion table on next meeting and regarding we needed more information on this individual. The department did get that information on it, and they went ahead and they did approve it. Anything else? Ted, did you have anything? Okay,
Just
Anybody?
one comment.
Sure.
In the minutes, the phrase "made the motion," it could be made simpler by just saying that the individual moved. So when
Okay.
you make a motion, you can just say, then moved that. It'll be just a little easier in making the transcription.
Okay. With that approved? All in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Oppose? Accepted or pass. Okay,
Then could we go ahead and deal with the individuals before we go through the reports?
sure, well, I believe it's, are you talking about the complaint status?
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that. It's just, okay, this is a discussion. Asynchronous requirements for 2026 mandatory CE course. Jeff,
Morning.
good morning. Jeff, by the way, this was approved last meeting. I think the motion was made by Commissioner Gray and it was unanimously accepted.
Yeah, I wanted to share some of my experience. I think that there were some perspectives that may not have been considered in the few minutes when it was discussed. Because I think by doing so, you're creating a lot of challenges for licensees and ultimately for some consumers as well. So as you all know, I'm the owner of Keep Me Certified. We're a real estate school in 11 different states. I did some research leading up to today, and for the 2024 renewal cycle, does anyone know how many, the portion of the credits that were submitted to the state were done via asynchronous, just to get a sense of the scale of how many licensees complete credits asynchronously? The answer is at least 45% of all the credits submitted to the state. It's probably more like 50 to 60, but I just chose the largest schools that I know only do asynchronous. So roughly half of the credits completed every renewal cycle are done via asynchronous. And there are various reasons that people do that. Convenience obviously is one of them. A lot of, as we all know, licensees like to complete their continuing ed in the last days leading up to the renewal cycle. There is people who have just the inability to attend live sessions. They work during the week, they have other jobs, they have clients they're working with, whatever it is. So the convenience to be able to do it on their own schedule, late in the evenings, early in the mornings. There are a lot of benefits to asynchronous, including that you get to go back to the course and review pieces that you may need to brush up on or you have questions on. For example, at Keep Me Certified, you have access to your course that you enroll in for a year from the date that you enroll. And as it relates to the mandatory course specifically being live or live online, we looked at the entire United States. And of the 51 jurisdictions, which includes DC, only 2 do not have a mandatory or a core course. So everyone basically has a mandatory or core course. Of all of the jurisdictions, only 1 state has a live requirement, live online requirement, as I understand it. And of that 1 state, which is Nevada, they only require the hours, not specific topics, to be taught live. I don't know why we're not in that state. I'm not sure. So I'm trying to advocate for licensees who are ultimately going to find themselves in hot water when it comes down to the wire, but also after the wire, after the renewal deadline, the CE deadline, when people are reinstating. I looked online over the past few months, and I can't find a single school that offers the prior mandatory topics. Now, it's possible that they exist, but I looked at all the schools that I knew of on Google, ones I could find, and I didn't see anyone offering that. So as it relates to reinstatement, everyone who misses the deadline for whatever reason, schools just seem to stop offering the mandatory courses after the deadline. So that's a real concern. Keep Me Certified, as I understand it from my research, is the only school that will allow a former Connecticut licensee to reinstate their Connecticut license. If we weren't offering the courses, I don't know where anyone would go to complete those courses, especially in a live setting, because I don't know which schools are offering. I don't think there are any schools offering the mandatory courses in a live format. So you've got a lot of challenges there. You've got consumers, first-time home buyers that don't speak English as a primary language. According to NAR, that was 6% of home buyers in 2023. Now you're probably wondering, why does that matter? It is not reported on or probably even researched, but I think as practitioners, as licensees, as many of us on this call are, it's generally understood that people who don't speak English as a primary language tend to commonly work with licensees who speak their language. Not all licensees speak English as their primary language either. And where I'm going with this, and sure, it's a smaller subset, right? But as real estate commissioners, you guys are tasked with, protecting consumers and overseeing real estate schools and the rules thereof, right? So what we've embarked on at Keep Me Certified via an asynchronous format, which is, as far as I know, the only way that this can be done, we've started transcribing our courses and translating them into multiple languages. So right now, so far, we're working on Spanish, Portuguese, French, Mandarin, and then obviously we already have English transcriptions. So people who don't speak English as their primary language, and there are plenty of them because I'm on the phone with many of our students who have questions, and I can tell that English is not their primary language. That asynchronous is really the only way to make sure that all of these licensees who aren't fluent English speakers are able to pick up on the important content that you folks and the team that makes the content are creating. So sure, these aren't the vast majority of licensees or the vast majority of home buyers, but they exist. And the reason that I'm aware of it is because licensees reach out to me over the 12 years that I've been doing this. We've educated over 50,000 licensees across the states that we're in. And I'm the front line of all constructive criticism that comes into our course and suggestion, the suggestion box. And there's been a lot of requests for different languages. And that's how we landed on Portuguese, Spanish, French, and Mandarin. And by the end of this year, we should have our entire CE catalog in all of those languages available across all the states where we're in. So there are a number of reasons that allowing the mandatory course to be taught asynchronously would be beneficial to not only licensees, but also to consumers. And in the 5 minutes or so that were spent at the August meeting, there really, I did not hear a single reason that it would be beneficial to restrict it from being asynchronously delivered. None of you answered to me, but it's my opinion, it's my perspective that we're really missing an opportunity here about conveying the appropriate information to all the right people in a timely manner, and giving them the opportunity to come back and review material that they may have missed. You know, sitting in a course on Saturday morning or on Tuesday afternoon in a library or a conference room somewhere is a great way to learn. There's nothing wrong with that as a great option, but not having the option that accommodates everyone else who takes asynchronous courses, who prefers asynchronous courses, who finds that asynchronous courses are better for them. And again, I know from the last meeting that I attended a couple years ago that that's not everyone's style. Our format, video-based format, is not everyone's style, but we are a really good option for a lot of people out there. So I'm not asking to approve our style of teaching, be it video format or text format or some other asynchronous format. I'm just saying that as an option, I think it should be allowed in Connecticut. And you know, I haven't heard any reasons as to why it should remain restricted. I think it's a real opportunity that's being missed here for licensees and consumers. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. Any comments from the commission? No one has any comments?
Do the commissioners disagree with anything that I've said? I mean, it feels like I've made a reasonably compelling case to not restrict the asynchronous format. There are so many reasons that I just shared as to why it would be beneficial to have, and I'm curious.
If I can only say that you brought up some good points, but it seems like now, perfect example, the agents out there, last minute, the fines, they're complaining about the fines that's going on right now. Why? Because they've got 2 years to take these courses. And I'm speaking for myself, I'm not gonna say for the others, but the 2 years is a long time. And if there's a problem or whatever, then it should be discussed beforehand. Not saying that if we see that there is consistently a problem, then this won't be reconsidered. As COVID-19, we had to reconsider this, as you know.
I think it was always asynchronous before COVID as well, the mandatory courses, because we taught them, and I know there were other schools that were doing it asynchronously prior to COVID.
As for me, I'm typically in favor of access. I mean, it hits home personally. My wife was one of those who came to America speaking only Chinese and getting her master's degree with a tape recorder in class, trying to figure out what, in God's name, the professor said after class. And it's a hard way to get an education.
I don't have any sympathy for people who are late either. That's not what this is about. It is in part what this is about, but I'm not trying to keep licensees from being punished for being late. That has nothing really to do with this. I'm saying access and availability and an asynchronous format is just as good, arguably, debatably better than in a live format.
Jeff, what are the languages again, and what additional languages are you considering rolling out?
Well, right now, our current language is English, but our additional languages that we are working on actively is Spanish, Portuguese, French, Mandarin.
When will those be available?
We already have a lot of it translated, and we'll be rolling it out up through the end of the year across the courses.
Yeah, the reason I ask,
including the mandatory course, including this current mandatory course.
the reason
Should it be become available?
I'm sorry, I wanted to hear everything you had to say. The reason I ask is I'm worried about, there's a lot of Spanish-speaking consumers, Portuguese-speaking consumers, and more Chinese-speaking consumers. And it's much better for them that they have an agent that that can explain to them the process wherever possible.
Ben, was there somebody else on this call that was also that was a school that was going to speak on this matter, or was it just a letter we received?
I was, Annalisa, Emily, is she here? There she is.
I would just prefer to hear from both of the folks from
Well,
schools.
let's let Jeff, I was gonna get to that, but Jeff, are you complete now? Do you have anything else?
I'd be happy to respond to any questions or concerns about it being live only. But I have nothing really more to add at the moment.
Okay. Gonna thank you. You addressed some good reasoning here. Is it Analia? I think you're muted. Oh,
Quick question. When they sit for the test, is the test in English only, or are there options for those folks who are not necessarily basic English speakers?
Is that for me?
yes.
That's
Yes, Jeff.
What?
So I
What are
didn't know if she
which
was
test are
referring
you
to
speaking about?
the 30 question test that PSI offers, or if it was she was referring to the assessments on our website. I wasn't sure because
Morag, you mean the state licensing test, correct?
I do.
Oh, state licensing, it's English only, is it not?
Well, no, we have, this is Jay. We have worked with PSI to make sure that if needed, upon request, exams can be available in other languages.
Is there a restriction? Do we have a list of languages, or is it basically dependent upon the need? Does someone have access regardless of their native language?
Yeah, no, at the moment, it's kind of on request. It's, because there are so many tests across all of the trades that we're talking about, and of course, all the languages. So it's not proactively transcribed at this point.
Thank you.
Annalise? I think you're muted. We can't hear you. So can't hear you.
Sorry, Annalise, try hitting Control, Shift, and M at the same time.
She logged off. She's going to try to log back in, it looks like. So just give it 1 second. Thank you.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Oh, good. Yes, good. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. I am here on behalf of WebCE. We also offer asynchronous online courses. And when we are able to, we do offer the Connecticut mandatory course to licensees. I would echo everything that that Jeff said, all the information that he provided, and I do hope that the commission appreciates and understands that I know a lot of times people have kind of a misconception about the quality of online education. And the truth is we've been offering continuing education for 25 years online, asynchronous. Our courses we build using all the technology we can, and we have certain advantages that just aren't available in a classroom format. That's not to say that a classroom format is bad or completely pointless, but but there are benefits. So like one of them, Jeff said, translating into other languages. But another advantage that we offer is voice to text. So students can either read the course or they can hear the course. We also offer sometimes video-based courses, just depending on the course. Anyway, there are just a lot of technologies that we can leverage that give licensees a really great learning experience. And they're able to do it on their own schedule, which is so critical, especially in rural areas. Licensees who live in places where they may have to travel an hour or something to go to a CE class, and that may or may not be feasible within their own schedule. In the past license cycle, we alone, our school had over 200 licensees sign up for our course. So we know there's a demand. And Jeff pulled the cool statistic of over 40% or 45% or something of licensees wanting to complete an asynchronous course. So yeah, we appreciate that the commission wants licensees to have the best information available and that they want licensees to get that information and learn early on, perhaps in their renewal cycle. And I would suggest that if the commission is worried about having licensees complete their CE earlier as opposed to later, that could be solved by perhaps having a different deadline for CE rather than restricting a format, somewhat arbitrarily, it seems.
Thank you.
I can,
And Annalise, let me ask you, how many languages does your course provide? And what languages are there? Are they?
Sure. Our course is available in English.
That's the only language?
It is, yes.
It's interesting. You had mentioned, Annalise. Would you help me understand? There's two things. One is how your course can help people who are differently abled. And the other question, I don't know, is it possible for you to provide access for the Real Estate Commission so that we can try it and see it and feel it with our own eyes? Because I really believe seeing is believing.
Absolutely. We are able to offer access to the commission if they'd like to see the course. We would be happy to provide that. Although we don't have the current one fully developed because we stopped developing it when we heard that we might not be able to offer it. But we could certainly give you access to the prior one or to a different course. So our course is helpful, I would say, for people who are differently abled. Like I mentioned, we are able to offer the text to a voice format. So the course will be read aloud. We also are able to offer different font sizes, so largering, smallering the text if needed. We offer different experiences for people who need visual aid. So like contrast, changing the contrast of the course. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and also it sounds like people with mobility issues. It sounds like also people have trouble, with whatever cognitive issues and they can't sit for a long period of time. I don't know if you have something that provides appropriate breaks so they can do it at their own pace.
Absolutely. That is a huge advantage of our course. People can go and come back to it at any time. And, some commissions, we offer courses in other states, and some are concerned that students will just fast forward through sections. And we have the ability to actually keep people from fast forwarding through text, so they have to sit, we can make it so that they have to sit through the whole thing if that is something that the commission is concerned about, people just jumping ahead. So yeah, it's completely self-paced. If someone needs a break, they could take a break, come back to it the same day, later, at any time.
My big concern has always been, I think that the wrong thing about some of the tests is they have almost trick questions and they try to test how smart people are. I don't care about that. I care that people know what they're supposed to know, that people are ethical and people are appropriately trained. That's what's important to me.
Yes.
I just have a clarification question. So I'm sorry, I was not at the August meeting because I was on vacation at that time. So when we deemed that the mandatory course had to be synchronous, that means that a person could be teaching a live course on a Zoom call, correct? It doesn't have to be physically in person. Is that
Correct.
accurate? Okay, so I don't physically have to drive to a location. So if I'm rural, I can do an online course at my home when the course is available. I just wanted to clarify that I don't have to physically drive somewhere to take this class. I can take it from a Zoom call class. That's all.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
May I ask, what is
Uh,
the
Jeff,
term?
Jeff, I just want to finish one thing on, do you offer this, put the brakes on the fast forward problem? Your course?
Me?
Yes, Jeff.
Yeah, there's no fast forwarding. A student will spend the entirety of the videos in the course. We have bots that we've built that can pop up, "Are you still there?" when we sense inactivity. We have bots that can be time-based as well. So if we wanted to do every 3 minutes, we could. If we wanted to do it every 10 seconds after you stopped moving your mouse, which is absurd, we could do that. There are plenty of mechanisms in place to ensure that. But I think one thing that Annalise mentioned is the consistency of the course. Our course is delivered the exact same way to every single person. And as commissioners, that is exactly what you are looking for. Because right now, Jason or Jill or someone on that team has to pop in and out of courses to do whatever their process is towards auditing them. And the delivery of one course, of a course in one session, could be very different from the delivery of another. You don't know if they're hitting all the topics. You don't know how long they're spending on the topics. And based on prior calls that I've been on, it is important that sufficient time is spent to cover the topics that are necessary as deemed by you or the DCP or whoever is doing the auditing, right? So my course, every single person who takes it is going to receive the exact same information in the exact same format. If there's an error, we can fix it. If there's an update, we've gone back and updated courses that have already been previously approved. And that, in my mind, is exactly what commissioners would want to see. I've suggested to people at DCP in the past and other states, if these mandatory courses are so important that the topics be delivered in a very specific manner, then the commission or someone that is designated thereof, the type of person that would do a train the trainer course, should just teach the course, and then the state should say, hey, sign up for our course. The technology's there. I've offered to allow the use of my technology to do that type of thing. I think that's a fantastic way to ensure that everyone is getting exactly what the commission wants. Because right now, someone's got to pop in and out of all these live sessions. And as I understand it, in most states, the commission / real estate departments are overwhelmed and just don't have the capacity to do that. So by allowing asynchronous, you're also ensuring consistent content being delivered.
I would also jump in and say our courses are Arello certified, which means that they are certified by an international membership-based organization. It's called the Association of Real Estate Licensed Law Officials. And they don't check for content, they check for course delivery standards. So they're making sure, does this course have enough interactivity? Does this course have enough quizzes? And is the final exam a quality enough final exam? So not only are the online courses asynchronous, consistent with each other, they're also consistent in terms of quality.
I think to clarify a point Annalise just made, maybe add on to it for a moment, they are confirming that the course is structured appropriately. So they're not confirming that we say the correct information. They're confirming that there are learning objectives for the course that those learning objectives are being met by the content taught and the assessments being provided. And they ensure things like time spent in the course is there, right? They have certificates that state whether there's a timing mechanism that's been enabled or not for that course. So one could argue that an asynchronous course offered that is Arello certified, which is required of all of them in Connecticut, is that there is more time spent thinking about the structure and the delivery of it in an asynchronous format to meet these additional standards than in a live format where instructors and or the entire class can meander through topics at their own pace, maybe not get to all of them in time because there's too many, or maybe they breeze through it quickly because there's no interaction. And as it relates to interactivity, I would say that people are no more or less engaged in an asynchronous course than they are in a live course. Right now.
I'm sorry. So I am an active practicing real estate agent, and this is my full-time job. And I don't even actually have to attend continuing education because we are waived from it for being on this commission. And I sit on the commission's subcommittee that created the education. I can absolutely tell you when I attend classes, and I do actually do my continuing ed, that there is value and there is conversation that happens in those classes in person that is valuable to the agents that are there. So to say that there's not like that there's not, it's asynchronous is the same, I would say it's not. So I absolutely derive value, as do the people who go to classes. And I'm not saying that that has to be a requirement, but to say that there's not value derived from having conversations with other practicing practitioners in a live situation where there can be spontaneous questions that come up and then conversations, there is value to that. And I will also add that as a practicing practitioner, the level of preparedness, professionalism, and just knowledge of agents has dropped off a cliff from COVID. I can tell you the transactions I am doing now with agents who are newer to the field, I am literally guiding them through every transaction because they don't know what's happening. So I do believe that in-person interaction and in-person classes is valuable to practitioners. And if you are trying to protect the consumer, that is value add to the consumer.
But the flip side of it is I've done both. I have used Keep Me Certified. I've used the CE Shop, and I've also gone to in-person. And an in-person training session can be, you can have someone who wants to be smart and asks a lot of stupid questions and drives the entire training session in a way that it was not intended to go. And you can have a bad trainer or you can have a great trainer. I've had both. It's you don't have the consistency.
I'd like to.
By the way, one last thing I want to mention also, I have tried using the online products, and I have made it my mission to not learn. And that's why I wanted you guys to try it. It's impossible to not learn in these sessions. They force you to sit there, they force you to learn, they force you to take the quizzes and actually prove that you learn the material whether you want to or not.
If I can address in response, Amy, I want to be very clear that I never said that there is no value derived from live courses. Never said it. In fact, multiple times I've said that it is a good option. I'm saying that asynchronous is also a good option. I got my license. I'm a practicing licensee for the past 18 or so years as well. So I understand, even if I wasn't a practicing licensee, I've been to school. I've been to public education, private education. I produced courses. I get it. Live courses are great. People do interact in live courses. There are also some people that are not like you who don't interact and instead spend time on their phone responding to emails. The same is true for asynchronous. The same is true for live online. There are people on this call right now who potentially are responding to emails, but they're here, right? There are people who are in live online continuing ed courses that are driving and have their phone in their phone holder and they're getting credit for the courses. So I am not saying that live in class is a bad option. I'm saying that asynchronous is equally a good option and should be an additional option for all of the other reasons that I mentioned at the beginning. And also, yes, you're right. There's a lot of training that needs to be done for licensees and handholding through transactions, unrelated to that. And by the way, I have one thing to bring up that I think should be fixed in the deck, because I believe it is a clerical error, but very important. On slide 11, the broker CE cycle says that it ends on August 31st. And that is going to be incredibly confusing and frustrating to anyone teaching it reading off the slides.
I believe it does if you don't want to fine. Is that correct? Because didn't we end the cycle? Like you have to have your CE done, I think 60 days before the renewal or something. Wasn't that it, Ben?
Right, that's correct.
Okay, so just to clarify, because it does say August 30th elsewhere. There are local association websites in Connecticut that say August 30th and others that say August 31st, and there's a $300 fine difference on that specific deadline. So if it is the 30th, which is 90 days before November 30th, not November 31st, then I'm just saying that should be clarified because it's written both ways in the deck.
We'll look into that and address it. But getting back to, I agree with Amy, by the way. I've been in real estate for nearly 50 years, and I've watched the last few years what transpired here. And the agents themselves, we're concerned about maybe the bar going down. The bar has to be raised or held where it's at. And it's a concern that we have. The agents out there, and I'm involved out there, and now we have teams, and it's getting, not only is it getting a little more complicated, it's like a little bit who's on first. So I think one of the things why we're concerned about is to keep that bar up. And I know what you're saying, and I agree with you that but it's still, there's a possibility that live would definitely be we feel more comfortable with. Or live online.
But it sounds like it's the content of the training that you're concerned about. The hand-holding is a lack of understanding of a lot of practical transactional information and transactional experience, where what comes next, who's in charge of this, that stuff's not taught in the mandatory course. There is no discussion, not a single topic off the top of my head that I can recall in this or prior mandatory courses that actually work through a transaction from a buy side, a sell side, a commercial side, a rental side. There are little things that pop up around when to give some certain disclosures, but that's it. So a lot of the challenges out there are from maybe the topics that are being discussed, because I have personally gone up against it as well. I hold a broker's license in multiple states, and I've done a fair amount of transactions in my career, and I'm in the Facebook groups that many of you are in too, and I agree with a lot of it. So that's not necessarily relevant to the delivery method, because there are courses out there. We don't offer one in Connecticut that takes you through a transaction. So if that is important, and it is important, perhaps whoever's on the committee of the next renewal cycle can include that, take us through a typical transaction from the different perspectives. But the format doesn't change whether or not the licensees are going to behave differently and understand the transaction differently.
Okay, Jeff. Good point. I mean, I think if we're on a next renewal cycle, this will be discussed. Maybe at that time, you may want to make a presentation to us for the subcommittee for discussion.
Well,
perhaps something will change.
It's my understanding
something will change that would change our mind.
So just to be clear, so I understand, because from what I've heard from you, I know you've listened to me, so I want to make sure I understood from you. You want to not offer asynchronous delivery of the mandatory course because as practitioners, you feel that the training for licensees is lacking and affecting the transactional knowledge of licensees? Or is there something that was more related to the actual delivery method that is concerning? Did I miss something?
Interaction is an important factor here.
And interaction can be supported in an asynchronous format. We actually have another core course that we are teaching for another state that has live surveying. So as we're going through the course, the individuals will submit their answers, right? Just as you would in a live classroom where you ask questions and poll students. So there is interaction available that is a solved problem that already exists in an asynchronous format. And if that is important, that can be included in these asynchronous courses.
Jeff, you may want to bring that up at the next cycle.
So, but nobody could ask a question.
Everyone can
You know,
ask
you're saying, but there's no live person there to answer the question. What do they have to, you know, type in the question and then wait for 3 days before they get an answer? By then it's long gone.
So Sharon, that's a good question. Can people ask questions in our courses? The answer is yes. Do they get a response the same day? Yes. 100% of our students who ask a question that's content related gets filtered directly to the appropriate instructor and they get a response. And what I like and prefer about asynchronous courses over live courses is that a lot of students have scenario questions that are a little bit nuanced. And I am not a lawyer. I don't know if there are anyone on this call that's a lawyer, but it puts instructors in a live format in a difficult position to answer a question that they may just need 2 minutes to research. And when someone asks us a question, if I affirmatively know the answer, I respond and say, hey, yeah, definitely. If there's a gray area, I'm going to caveat that with, here's a scenario in which it would be my response. I'd say, here is the source of the information that I'm getting my response from. And that takes me a couple minutes to get. So to address your question of can people ask questions? Yes. Do they ask questions? Yes. Do they get responses promptly? Yes. Is there a way? We also have the technology, it's widely available that every online school probably has, that every asynchronous school at this point has, to create a forum where students can engage with each other in the course as well. So they can see what other people have asked questions, they can see the responses, they can engage in that. So they get the benefit of the hundreds to thousands of licensees that have taken the course, the questions they've asked too. So the question and answer and the conversation and the polling, which is done also in the traditional live setting, is all available. And we can and have built that into our courses in the past.
I would jump in and also say that not only is it just good practice, it's now a rule in the new updated Arillo standards that asynchronous providers who get the Arillo certifications, they must respond to student questions, all student questions within 48 hours. Our school, we try to respond typically within 4 hours, definitely same business day to any students. And we do have discussion forums as well, like Jeff mentioned. That is a technology that we use. And it's great for engaging students and all the interactivity that it brings.
Ben, so if we were to allow this, then would we need to make that mandatory for all schools to provide that, where students can ask questions real time and get a response, and that there's interactions between students?
I suppose we could put a restriction regarding that.
Because I mean, there's no if you allow asynchronous, who's to say one school has the technology that another has?
Well, that's the thing. This is what I was asking.
Yeah.
There's 2 schools here, and one obviously has the different forms of doing this. So I just can imagine how many schools out there. So we'd have to come up with some type of guideline that we expect to happen.
Well,
what we want.
You, the commission, already
have a situation where, I'm sorry, then do we run into a situation where we have other schools who are not as technology advanced claiming that we're mistreating them? I don't know where this goes.
If I could chime in on that, the technology is widely available for online schools. In some cases, it's also free. Google Forms is a great way to poll students as they come through the course. That is a free service, and then be able to display those surveys. That's just one example. There are others. And as it relates to, can the commission add those restrictions to asynchronous format? In as simple as a vote like you did in August, you can say, hey, there has to be a reasonable, whatever the language is, level of engagement in the course as deemed by the commission, or the language is probably workable within an hour. But if that is the gap here, to require some type of live interaction, I don't know of a school that does not respond to student questions. I don't know, maybe I'm not sure who's in charge of overseeing and reaching out to schools, but maybe they can tell you if they've received complaints from students who don't hear back from schools. And that could be an unrelated problem to solve, because that could also occur in a live format too, where the course is being taught and there was not time made to ask questions because there was so much content to teach. So I think that the way that it's always been done doesn't necessarily contemplate all of the nuances of asynchronous that we're discussing here as well. So if that would solve this concern, if this would address this concern appropriately, I'd be happy to come up with some language and to propose. But I want to make sure I'm addressing the concerns here, because engagement is a very valid concern, and there are other real estate commissions and subcommittees equivalents creating courses that require interactivity. South Carolina is one of them. And if it's an asynchronous format, you still have to have the same interactivity. And if a forum is required to be included in the course, that technology is widely available and free for any school that has an online presence. And you just have to, if you would let me know what exactly it is that you would like, I'd be happy to put some language together to propose. I'd prefer this not to drag out for 3, 4, 5, 6 months over something that seems like it's pretty solvable, because all the schools that offer asynchronous would like to be in the market offering that course because it's a good course.
I think this is something, before we get deeper in it, is that DCP we'd have to discuss this with DCP. We'd have to discuss it. We should have our subcommittee also look at this. I mean, obviously you've proposed certain things, what you have. And I think these are things that we would discuss among ourselves for next cycle. We made a decision at this
Why are we
point.
pushing this to next cycle though? We're very early and not even started in the current cycle.
But why would we have to change?
Well, there was a change made from
I think
all historical ways recently.
I think we're satisfied right now. That's why we made the decision.
Okay.
That's my feeling. Commission members? Anybody want to say anything about it? Your feelings? Suggestions?
I'm having a trouble with the microphone. Yeah, I feel like we made the decision for this particular course. A lot of it did have to do with the content of the course and the desire to have it be live. I mean, I go back to it's one course. Yes, it is the mandatory, but it's 3 hours in 2 years that we are asking that agents take the course in person. So, or live online, that option is still available. So that's just my feelings. That's just my 2 cents.
Will this be communicated to licensees? Because it's my understanding that so far it has not been.
Has what been communicated, Jeff?
That this course can only be taught live or live online?
Well, it would be communicated when they went to, like, say, your website to look for the course.
It's a bit late at that point if they have waited to schedule their live course and then they find out, oh no, it definitely is something that should be communicated to licensees, no matter what the commission ends up deciding.
Well, specifically if this remains live and live only, live online, licensees will assume that things have been the same for the prior cycle as well, from the prior cycle to the current cycle. So I'm just saying that there should be communication that gets sent out to all licensees saying, hey, there's a change in the rules this year that is different from last year that you should be aware of. it's an email. A lot of states send out updates either regularly or quarterly, and this is just a communication that I think it would be beneficial to at least go out to tell people that, hey, this is different this year.
Well, we'll discuss it with DCP and see what would be the appropriate way of to getting that out. What would be the best vehicle to do so? Probably car would be the best to start off with. Any other comments, please?
I thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, next is correspondence, pre-licensing alternative to pathway review. David Sell, Director of Education. Are you here, David?
I am here. Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Can you folks hear me all right?
We can hear you okay.
Terrific. Thank you. And again, I appreciate you having me on your agenda this morning. This is I know you have me as the Director of Education for the Bridgeport Board, which I am, but this is more of a personal note. I am looking, but this is be good knowledge to have going forward. I am looking to extend my licensee status to brokerage. I got my license, took my class in the summer of 2004 when it was still a 30-hour class. And the requirements now are a 60-hour course, which I understand. Starting in 2016, I was teaching the 60-hour course. And in that time frame, I've taught the 60-hour course 30 times. So what I'm looking for you guys is a waiver to have to repeat the class that I've taught 30 times.
I don't know, what have we done in the past here regarding instructors?
Now, on recurring ed, if you teach, it counts as the same as taking a class. The theory is because you've already put in the work. And by the way, I want to disclose that I do have a relationship with David. He and I are on the Bridgeport board together. I think that's the full extent of our relationship. I don't know that we have, we've never had lunch together or any personal or business relationship.
No, that's correct, Peter. Just board membership.
Yeah, my personal opinion when I read this was absolutely it would be almost silly to take it as long as we have verification of some kind that you have
That's
instructed
correct.
it.
Yeah, you've got a way of letting us know that in some ways.
So,
We just did
yeah.
a confirmation. We just did a confirmation.
Or maybe
Absolutely.
a pay stub related
I
to
can have
that,
our
something.
association executive who wrote the checks to me write a letter
Perfect.
attesting that I taught the course.
Yeah.
All right, terrific. Thank you very much. I appreciate
Well,
it.
we have to make a motion on this.
Oh, okay.
All right,
Okay.
I move that we accept the proposal to waive Mr. Sell's pre-licensing education.
Second.
Provided at the documentation.
Yes,
Is-
pending the documentation, correct.
Okay, discussion.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
I think we all need to mute.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passed. That's a pass. Okay,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome. Continuing education hardship. Mr. Mann, is Mr. Mann here?
Yes, hi, everyone.
Okay. Let's discuss.
Thank
Go
you so
ahead.
much for having me. I really appreciate your time. And again, please, this is my first time joining a meeting here, so please correct me if I'm doing things at the wrong point. I would like to discuss my situation, but by me having the situation I'm in, it uncovered something else that's a much bigger issue that I think is relevant to the board. Should I leave that for the public comment section, or can I kind of wrap it all into this point?
To me, we want to hear about the hardship.
Sure.
Let's focus on the hardship.
Sure. So the hardship piece for me is I'm a very small business in Connecticut, doing mostly commercial management. It's 99% of my business, and it's a small handful of properties that I take care of for some clients. So I received my renewal email from DCP on 10/9/24. And again, because I'm not such a big business in Connecticut, I'm not a part of any associations. I wasn't aware of the penalty that was passed in the 2023 legislation about the $315 for the CE continuing ed renewal education, the 90 days essentially. And I completed my continuing ed within 2 days after I got that email from DCP, and I submitted everything for my license. I got renewed, not a problem. I wasn't, forgive me if I just wasn't up to speed on the laws from 2023. As soon as I got the email, which is pretty standard from every state, about my renewal of my license, I immediately went and took care of everything. I did my continuing ed. I wasn't trying to push it out or not take care of it. It was just a notice issue for me. And I complied right away. And so I'm asking for, a refund essentially of my $315, which seemed to be an exorbitant penalty considering the whole renewal fee is only $750. And if I don't renew, the penalty is only $75. So that's what my request is on the hardship.
Typically, when we hear hardships, usually we hear from people who are profoundly ill and were unable to complete it in a timely manner. That's typically, people with very serious cancers, people with other profound illnesses.
Mm-hmm. I understand. I totally understand that. I'm not trying to BS anybody. I'm trying to be 100% honest and straightforward about the situation. And that's why this has led me to go down the rabbit hole of really understanding the nuances of the laws, especially the law that was only passed in 2023 and enacted in 2024. It's not like this has been on the books for a long time. And there's problems with the law itself, which I would like to bring up to the commission. But yeah, I understand that, Peter, and I can appreciate that as well for those people who do have those issues. That's not my issue today.
So just speaking from my point of view, I don't know how we can, from my perspective, I don't know how we can waive it because I'm not seeing the hardship.
I would say just,
that was the question. What is the hardship? What are you saying?
The hardship is I'm a small business in Connecticut. I'm a small business. I'm not a part of CT Realtors, which is a massive organization fighting on my behalf. I have a lot of things I'm dealing with. I take care of everything. I'm not a part of a big company. I'm an independent practitioner. You're looking at the company right here. And the hardship is I wasn't aware of this most recent change in the law that added this very, very substantial penalty.
Are financial hardships ever considered, Ben? I don't know.
No, it's not considered.
Okay.
Financial is not a hardship. It's not a hardship.
Peter, why don't you make a motion and then we can discuss it officially?
Okay, I move that we deny the motion, deny the request for hardship waiver.
Second. Discussion. Go ahead now. Any more? No more discussion. Okay. All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
It passed. All right. Sorry, Mr. Mann.
Will I still get an opportunity to speak about this other greater issue related to this topic?
You can come to our next meeting and discuss it.
I thought I had an opportunity in the public comments or concerns of any person present today.
Go ahead then.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I believe that DCP is not following the law as written, specifically regarding this 2023 Public Act. I think it's Public Act 23-84. Specifically, if you read the act in section 20-319 in Article E1 and E2, it says that the continuing education penalty, there's two different tiers for it, the $315 tier and a $625 tier, are to be put onto licensees who don't complete their continuing education not later than 2 months after such license period has expired. However, DCP is applying it to this 90-day requirement of finishing your continuing ed. But the law is written, should only assess a penalty after the license has expired. Essentially, even though the requirement for continuing ed is 90 days before the end, you have a grievance period between the 90 days and when your license expires. If you don't complete it by that time, then you get assessed a penalty according to what the law says. And DCP therefore is artificially applying this to myself and thousands of other real estate brokers and salespeople, not in accordance with the law. And I find it almost egregious that they are sending reminders about renewals and continuing ed after the 90-day period as well, making it very difficult for smaller business people and independent practitioners to comply. It feels like a money grab to me if it's not, just a mistake in timing and efficiency. So, I've already, brought this up to DCP. I think this is a pretty serious issue. The amount of money that the agency is penalizing people for this is not small. In fact, it is more than 3 times the penalty for not even renewing your license in time. The max penalty of $625 is marginally less than the penalty for operating as a broker without a license, which is only $1,000. That's the max you got that penalty can be imposed on somebody. So besides the size of the penalty, when it's being enforced on people, I believe is 100% against the language in the law itself. And I wanted to bring that to your attention because I don't know what other body there is to.
So let me ask you something, Mr. Mann. Did DCP respond back to you? You said you filed. Is this a complaint you filed?
Yeah, a gentleman named CJ
And what was their response
Strand.
back to you?
Yeah, so a gentleman named CJ Strand, who's only been working there for about 6 months. He's very, very new, very young. He said that he agreed with my reading of the law, but he said that any reference to continuing ed completion and licensure period must follow the statutory requirements under a different section, which is the section that outlines the 90 days. But that's not what the law says. The law says specifically when the penalty should be assessed, and it doesn't have anything to do or reference to the continuing ed 90-day completion.
Is Mr. Strand an attorney? I'm not
Mr.
familiar with his
Strand-
name.
I don't believe he is. Again, he's very new there.
Jason?
He's the legislative.
Yeah, so CJ is our legislative director, but he provided this response in consultation with our legal division.
Okay, so what was the termination then? Did it go to legal?
I'm sorry, what was your last question?
Did this go to legal?
Yes, yeah, this, like I said, this was in consultation with legal. So
Okay. and
laws,
what was-
the laws,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
yeah, like you said, the laws interact, even if they don't specifically reference each other. And, by legal's reading and interpretation, the laws aren't being applied correctly.
So what's the plan on correcting this?
Well, no, there's nothing to be corrected. The laws are being applied correctly.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Cohen, I didn't receive anything from, I reached out to the legal department. I never heard from them, besides a phone call. So I would like a legal ruling on that or some kind of message from them, because
Well,
the
that-
language of the law is clearly, it's very clear what it says. And that's not what Mr. Strand is saying, who is a, brand new employee of this department.
You don't need to demean his qualifications. He's extremely qualified, but he's the representative responding. And like I said, it was in consultation with legal, so you don't need to receive a separate email from legal, but that's DCP's response.
So this is the normal protocol then, right, Jason?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't mean to demean Mr. Strand's qualifications. I don't know anything about his qualifications. All I know is he's only been there for 6 months, which is what he told me. So my statement of legal, this is a legal issue, and the fact that I did speak with someone with the legal department, I do think it's only appropriate for legal to have a specific legal response. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, and then just regarding this point overall, I can understand continuing it. I fully agree. Continuing is incredibly important here. Applying a penalty, again, a significant penalty that is not cheap. Before
Mr.
I'm
Mayor,
even
Mr.
expired.
Man, I just want to just stop you for 1 second. This is illegal and DCP. You should be talking to them. They should be dealing with this. We're not attorneys. We are just a commission board. All right. And I don't feel that we can make any decisions here for you.
No, I'm not asking for a decision. What I'm asking I'm presenting this as a problem, and you as the commission board, again, my understanding is supposed to be hearing things like this and advocating on the behalf of all brokers and agents and everything.
Mhm.
I'm not asking for a decision. You've already made a decision on my case. That's why I'm bringing this up separately.
Thank you for bringing it up. We will continue to talk to legal about that.
Thank you. That's all I can ask. I appreciate that.
Okay. Let's see. That's it. Our next meeting is going to be February 5th. Anybody want to bring anything up?
Happy
Everybody
Turkey
happy?
Day.
Thank you. All right. And I'll adjourn the meeting. See you.
Bye, everybody.
Have a nice holiday, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, thanks. Happy holidays.